going to be reading Chapter 27 from Key Lime Pie Murder by Joanne Fluke. My prediction for this chapter is that they will be going to the hospital, because that's what they were talking about at the end of the last one. "Tell me why we're doing this again," Hannah said as Andrea pulled up in front of Digger, Gibson's mortuary. I have no idea why they're at a mortuary. This is a new name, Digger. We've never heard that before. And I have no idea why they'd be going there instead of a hospital. Maybe somebody died? We'll read on. "We're doing it because the flower shop at the mall is closed," Andrea explained. Okay, that makes more sense. So nobody else died. They're just going to go get flowers. "And if we come in without flowers, they'll think we're just trying to pump them for information about the identity of the cowboy who was seen with Willa on the night she was murdered, and whether Tucker really attempted to kill Curly or not." Alright, so let's go back and read some of that to figure out what they're doing. So they want to talk to somebody to see who Willa was with when she was murdered, which I knew that. They've been trying to figure that out the whole book. And whether Tucker really attempted to kill Curly. So Curly's the rodeo clown, and I think Tucker is one of the people they met at the barn a couple chapters earlier. "We are trying to pump them for information. I know that, and you know that, but we don't want them to know that." So that makes sense. They don't want to look suspicious. "And what happens if they ask us who the flowers are for?" Hannah posed another question. That is a good question. Usually when you go into a hospital, someone will ask you, if you go up to the desk, who you want to see. "We'll have a name by that time." Andrea sounded very confident as she opened her car door. "Wait here, and I'll be right back." I wonder how they'll have a name. And it sounds like Andrea's going in to get flowers now. "I just don't believe she's doing this," Hannah groaned, watching as her sister walked up the sidewalk and rang the bell to Digger's apartment over the mortuary. "Neither do I. You know what to do when we get to the hospital, don't you?" I wonder what they're going to do. Hannah nodded. "You and Andrea will keep the charge nurse busy, and I'll get a look at the patient list. Lake Eden isn't that big. We're bound to know somebody in the hospital." Okay, so that makes sense, but my mom was a charge nurse before she was promoted, and I don't think she'd be kept busy while someone looked at the patient list. That's usually not something that's kept right out in the open. But I guess it's a book, and the plot has to go on. "Right, and then we carry the flowers to the waiting room and pretend we're waiting to see someone. And then we do what we came for in the first place, which is to pump whoever's there for information about Curly and Tucker." So I guess they're planning to run into some people in the waiting room. Alright. "Right, here comes Andrea with Digger." Michelle stared out the window. "It looks like he's laughing. I don't think I've ever seen Digger laugh before." That makes sense. If he owns a mortuary, he probably doesn't get much time to laugh in public. "That's because the only time you see him is at funerals. I'm sure he laughs in private." So that's what I was just saying. "Really?" Hannah thought about the dour-faced undertaker and shrugged. "Well, maybe not. But he could be like the concert pianist who moonlights on a keyboard in a rock band. For all we know, Digger's a stand-up comic in his off hours." That makes me think of, just seeing people who you don't usually see out at parties, like seeing them out at a party. That makes me think about people in my own life who I wouldn't expect has the life that they have. They'd just gone over the plan again when Andrea came back to the car. "Hold these, will you?" she half-asked, half-ordered, thrusting a small vase filled with flowers into Hannah's hand. Sounds like Andrea's pretty bossy. I do that sometimes, though, when I don't really want to wait for an answer because I just know the person's going to do it anyway. You just kind of order them anyway. I wonder what kind of flowers they are, though. "Very pretty," Hannah said, glancing down at the bouquet. So they must be pretty flowers. "We took one stem from each arrangement," Andrea explained, as she slid in behind the wheel. "Digger didn't want anyone to suspect that we'd taken part of the funeral flowers." So that makes sense. If you take a little from each one, no one will know that anything's different. "No lilies, I see," Hannah noted. "No, Digger thought maybe they would raise some questions. He said lilies were traditional funeral flowers, except on Easter. People don't usually bring lilies to patients in the hospital." I don't think I'd bring lilies to someone in the hospital I guess I knew they were a funeral flower, but I didn't really think about them in any other sense before. Andrea drove out of town, and soon they were on the road to Lake Eden Memorial Hospital. This makes me think of the road that I drive on when I go to visit my mom at the hospital where she works. In less than 10 minutes, they were pulling up in the section reserved for hospital visitors. I don't think my mom's hospital has a section for visitors. I just park where she parks.